From the KFOX 14 studios in El Paso and Las Cruces, you're watching KFOX 14 News at 5.
Incredible video shows the moments after a fiery crash on I-10 near downtown erupted. The driver crawls out and walks away while a semi-truck is going up in flames. Breaking as we go on the air, I-10 will remain closed at least until tomorrow. We got an update in the last 15 minutes. The Office of Emergency Management is now urging drivers to find alternate routes for both east and westbound traffic of I-10 for the next 24 hours. We also just heard from TxDOT that experts from the Bridge Division in Austin are now flying into El Paso to assess the damage, and that could mean the freeway will remain closed even longer. Now, our viewers are helping us show you what happened. This picture is from Alejandro Garcia, and you can see a wheel from the truck landed in the middle of the freeway about 100 feet away from where the crash happened. A closer look shows the driver walking away from the crash. A lot of debris was scattered on the road below him. And a look at this picture was sent in by Ricardo Meraz. It shows the skid marks on the freeway leading up to the crash. You can see the crash also damaged the utility overpass, which is used for utility lines. Now, we have two reporters on this story ready to show us what we've learned from the crash so far and the traffic nightmare that it's causing right now. We start out our team coverage with KFOX 14 News at 5's Gloria De Leon live on the scene in downtown El Paso to show us what it looks like right now.
Well, we're here on Stanton in between Wyoming and Yandell, and take a look at this semi-truck behind me. Now, we're told that the driver may have lost control driving up the embankment, lodging itself on top of these pipelines. Now, several agencies, fire, police, Texas Gas Services, Water, TxDOT, El Paso Electric are all working together. Now, crews are working to figure out what is running in those pipes. The worry here is that there may be a gas line. Now, the fire department again tells us the semi may have lost control lodging going up the embankment. It happened at about 1:30 this afternoon. The semi then caught fire. Video also shows the driver crawling out of the burning semi. Now, witnesses we spoke with tell KFOX 14 it sounded like an explosion.
It was like almost everyone in El Paso could hear it. It was so loud. Like, I'm surprised that the glass at our office didn't break.
But we heard the explosion and we saw the fire go up, and the fire was so close to us that we could feel the heat from where we were sitting at.
Now, we're told the driver has minor injuries and was taken to a local hospital. There were no other injuries or vehicles involved in this accident. And again, we're told that this portion of I-10 will be closed for at least 24 hours. Reporting live from downtown El Paso, Gloria De Leon, KFOX 14 News at 5.
Gloria, thank you. Happening now, we're taking a live look now from our KFOX 14 Sky Cam, where it shows the overhead view, the eagle's eye perspective of that utility bridge. Now, you may not know what a utility bridge is, but it's different from a travel bridge like an overpass in that downtown area. It is a bridge dedicated solely to utility lines, which is why some of the water lines and the gas lines and electric lines may have been compromised. And another complication in this very dramatic crash. Now, our KFOX 14 traffic computer also shows severe backup. As you can see, there are many people who have not gotten the word about what has happened in that downtown area, although everyone downtown is clearly aware because they felt and heard the blast. But people coming in from both sides of I-10 are running into a mess. Here's a look from our TxDOT cameras that show that the traffic that is on the freeway is just crawling along. And so there are semi-trucks, and they are able to, in many instances, to communicate with each other. But we are hoping to get this word out right now via our website and our tweets and social media to all others who aren't in front of a TV right now to be able to avoid that area. Now, from our team coverage of the accident, the crash is, of course, causing traffic problems all around the city. And KFOX 14 News at 5's Kaylee Heck joins us now live from downtown to explain how you can avoid getting caught in this huge mess.
I'm here live off of Mesa and Montana. I-10 is just about 2 blocks this way, and the cars that are moving right now, well, that's about as fast as we've seen them move in the last 2 hours. Moving on up Mesa here, if you go to the very top of Mesa and drive down to this intersection, on a normal day, that would take you about a minute. Instead, it's taking drivers anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes just to make it down to this intersection. There's not an easy way to get around the traffic or the closures. As we've reported, I-10 is closed from the Spaghetti Bowl to Executive in both directions. The recommended detours are Paisano for drivers going west and Loop 375 for drivers going east. TxDOT says avoid the area as best you can, which is pretty hard considering how much backup there actually is. If you have to come in this direction, plan for delays, plan to move slow. The last thing you want to do is run into car trouble. Here on Mesa, we saw 4 people pushing an overheated truck, and they were moving pretty slowly. Drivers seem to be taking it just about as well as they can. Some frustrated drivers obviously honking sporadically, but it's slow moving here in downtown El Paso, and we will continue to keep you updated on air and online at kfoxtv.com. But for now, reporting live from downtown El Paso, Kaylee Heck, KFOX 14 News at 5.
Kaylee, thank you. Aside from traffic, the utility bridge that was damaged in the crash is also affecting water service. There is a water main break in the area just north of Montana between Prospect and Campbell, which is near that crash. Workers are now shutting off the valves while they fix the broken line. Service won't be interrupted completely, but those in that area will have low pressure until it's repaired. Now, if you want to see some of the many dramatic pictures and video of today's crash that have been sent in and that were captured by our own news teams, just go to our website, kfoxtv.com. You will find a gallery dedicated to the situation there. An El Paso police officer is not guilty in the drowning death of his infant son. KFOX 14 News at 5 reporter Claudia Tristan has been in the courtroom all week. She joins us now live from downtown with reaction from the family.
Earlier this afternoon, there was a huge sigh of relief in the courtroom right behind me. You could literally hear it as the judge who choked up on the bench read that not guilty verdict. Raymond Licon Jr. collapsed into his defense attorney's arms, crying. Now, the jury took about 4 hours deliberating to find him not guilty. Licon was charged with the death of his 11-month-old son who died last summer in the bathtub. He was facing 3 related charges, but 2 were dropped earlier today by the judge, leaving Licon only to face 1 charge, injury to a child. Licon's family filled 3 rows of seats in the courtroom, not just today, but all week during the trial. And today, everyone hugged each other with the decision and ready to move forward.
I don't see any reason why he won't go back to full duty. He has been acquitted by a jury of his peers.
Now, Licon and his family couldn't give us an interview. His defense attorney telling us that they were exhausted from this week. Reporting live in downtown El Paso at the county courthouse, Claudia Tristan, KFOX 14 News at 5.
Claudia, thank you. A man is in the El Paso County Jail now, suspected of murdering his own father in East El Paso yesterday. Police have identified 33-year-old Desiderio Agader III as the suspect. He allegedly attacked and stabbed his father to death at about 6 a.m. yesterday. Police say his father suffered multiple injuries to his face and his head. The younger Agader was taken to the hospital with injuries he sustained during the incident. His father was dead at the scene. This is now the 9th murder in El Paso this year. The man killed in yesterday's deadly crash in the Northeast is now identified by police as Richard Glenn Neal. That crash happened on Railroad Drive near an energy plant called Kinder Morgan. Neal was a passenger in the truck. Special traffic investigators determined the driver had stopped because of a gate that came down, and that's when the train broadsided the truck. Neal was ejected. He was not wearing a seatbelt, but the driver and front passengers did have their seatbelts on and are expected to recover. 3 Colorado residents are now identified as the 3 people killed in a bus crash in New Mexico on Sunday. All 3 were passengers on a bus headed from Denver to El Paso. The 3 who were killed were residents of Colorado, but all citizens of Mexico. The accident happened on Sunday morning. The bus was trying to avoid hitting a car that had just slammed into a pickup truck. That's when the bus was sideswiped by a semi-truck. The Sandoval County Sheriff's Office says initial reports that the driver of the car was among the victims are incorrect. From Las Cruces, a man is behind bars tonight for allegedly sexually assaulting a minor. Joshua Cornejo is being charged with a felony count of sexual contact with a teenager. Police say the 15-year-old girl spent the night with friends and relatives and woke up to Cornejo touching her. Detectives reportedly learned that Cornejo acted inappropriately around the same girl on at least a couple of other separate occasions. He is now being held without bond. The president is now facing new backlash after his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Fox News reporter Ray Bogan is in Washington with the latest.
It's been 3 days since the president left Finland after that controversial summit with his Russian counterpart. But today, their joint press conference is still drawing strong reaction here in Washington. Democratic lawmakers erupt into a chant on the House floor, following an impassioned plea by Representative Steny Hoyer to help states better secure elections.
Surely we can rise above pandering to party and Putin to act on behalf of our freedom and our security.
The president's press conference Monday with Vladimir Putin drawing strong backlash on Capitol Hill.
Stop the pro-Russia actions of this president, who just this week put on a shameful display of bowing down to Putin to the detriment of the United States.
Meantime, at the Aspen Security Conference, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen cast doubt on whether Russia meddled in the election to help elect Mr. Trump.
I haven't seen any evidence that the attempts to interfere in our election infrastructure was to favor a particular political party.
The Director of National Intelligence also addressed the topic during the forum.
They are the ones that are trying to wreak havoc over our election process. We need to call them out on that.
As for Russia's proposal to allow the U.S. to question 12 of its intelligence officers in exchange for permitting Russia to interview Americans, today the White House says President Trump believes the offer was made in sincerity, but disagrees. In Washington, Ray Bogan, Fox News.
This brings us to the question of the day. Do you think Vladimir Putin will one day be a U.S. ally or will always be a U.S. foe? You can answer this question by going to kfoxtv.com/question. We'll have the results tonight on KFOX 14 News at 9. We do have an update on this breaking news we've been bringing you all afternoon. KFOX 14 has now learned what appears to have caused this fiery crash in downtown El Paso. Of course, at the top of the newscast and throughout this afternoon in breaking news updates, we've showed you the semi-truck going up in flames on the side of the freeway on the embankment. And now in the last 5 minutes, the company that owns the truck tells us they have spoken with the driver who was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. They tell us that the driver lost control of the truck because he was reaching for a water bottle. The driver escaped without any serious injuries. No one else was injured, but the freeway remains closed in both directions at I-10 and Stanton, and it could be at least 24 hours until it reopens. A utility bridge was damaged by the crash, and TxDOT says investigators from the Bridge Division in Austin are on their way to El Paso to assess the damage. El Paso Community College could become home to a new competitive soccer team. KFOX 14 News at 5's Michael Ikahihifo is live in the studio to show us how one local soccer coach is trying to make it happen.
Well, EPCC tells me they've received hundreds of inquiries for a new soccer team, but nothing has come out of it. I spoke to a local soccer club coach and a current EPCC staff member who say they are drawing up a plan to send out an official proposal to the school. Now, more than 30,000 students attend EPCC's 5 campuses. As of right now, EPCC offers 3 competitive sports: baseball, softball, and cross country. But members of the community and current students are hoping to add soccer to that list. Now, EPCC says those who wish to add a new sport team must take the following preliminary steps. The student body must agree to a new sports team. The college would then conduct a feasibility study to figure out costs and the impact the sports will have on its students. And finally, the board will discuss these results with the student body and the community.
Yeah, it's something that we've been talking about as club coaches and even the high school coaches in town, both on the girls and boys side is as why don't we have a team here in El Paso at EPCC? Local school and having a lot of kids that are actually really talented that go play at the next level. It would be a great opportunity for the local kids to have something to shoot for.
Now, EPCC tells me the president of the school is planning on meeting with other inquirers separate from Mendoza about a proposed soccer team. Now, coming up tonight at 9, we'll show you what current EPCC students have to say about possibly bringing a soccer team to their school. Reporting live here in the studio, Michael Ikahikifo, KFOX 14 News at 5.
A wildlife problem, the reason dozens of fish died in a Las Cruces pond, and how the city is trying to fix that problem. Paying for the parade, the amount President Trump's military parade is expected to cost. The cost of gas, the drop El Paso saw this week. Coming up on KFOX 14 News at 5. Look back at the scene of a serious semi-truck crash in central El Paso at 1:30 this afternoon, which is now having horrible traffic ramifications around town as people are getting out of work and trying to get home. Both sides of the freeway are closed and will be closed until at least tomorrow. Gas prices, however, in El Paso County are continuing a downward trend. And here's the backup on the freeway before the exits where people are being diverted at Cotton and Executive. So the freeway is closed from the area of US 54, which many of us know as the Spaghetti Bowl, all the way to Executive. So though you see traffic moving on the other side of the freeway, this is sort of the bookend of the situation. So the area between the Spaghetti Bowl and Executive has no traffic on it. All traffic is being diverted. All right, let's talk about gas since we're talking about traffic. In El Paso County, we are continuing a downward trend. AAA says the average price for a gallon of regular gas is now at $2.68, down 6 cents from last week. That is slightly above the state average, which sits at $2.63. AAA says the reason for the drop in fuel prices is supply, which is now keeping pace with demand, and oil prices have dropped a little bit week to week. It appears more people seem to be having second thoughts about buying the new Model 3 Tesla. One analyst says cancellations for Tesla's new mass market model are now outpacing the actual orders for the cars. According to Needham and Company Investment Services, about 1 in every 4 Model 3 orders has been canceled in recent weeks. The analyst says refunds now outpace deposits for Tesla's new mass market electric car. Tesla, however, denies those claims.
All right, well, we've got a little break from the heat with a little rain trying to move in. Out of the east, it's making its way towards the I-10 corridor, but really, this is mainly just light rain, making it a little bit more miserable out there, in fact. It's hot. We hit a high today of 105 degrees, and we're still in triple-digit heat. All thanks to high pressure that's just sitting right over us and expected to stay that way through the rest of this week. So if you have plans to wash your car, you got a green light, folks. Just get out and do it early if so. All right, our forecast tonight, 10% chance in El Paso and in Las Cruces. And over the next 48 hours, you can see more triple-digit weather, more sunshine, and more dry conditions. So we got this little break in our dry streak, but it won't last for long. When the storms return is in your 5-day forecast, with the weekend always in view.
Cracking down on fake charities, the reason the government is stepping up its efforts to take down scammers. A social disconnect, why the rise in addictions could be tied to your smartphone. Next on KFOX 14 News at 5, coverage you can count on. My truck that is tying up traffic in both directions as the freeway has closed. We're hoping to take a text.cam shot of that situation. What's that? Okay, but we will continue to update you on that situation. I'm told we are moving on with other news of the day. A new report says loneliness now rivals obesity and smoking when it comes to what can raise your risk for serious health problems. And some experts say what could be contributing to it is your smartphone. Recently, medical experts point out that some addictions are on the rise as more of us connect through devices. One expert believes addictive behaviors could be tied to people trying to fill the void of being lonely.
I was such a lonely person always through childhood and even more so into my teenage years. So when I found drugs, that was ultimately what I'd always looked for, was something to give me that warm feeling inside.
A recent survey conducted by the health insurance company Cigna found nearly half of all Americans report feeling alone, isolated, or left out. Generation Z, ages 18 to 22, and millennials, ages 22 to 27, reportedly are the loneliest of all. The National Alliance of Mental Illness of El Paso is helping to spread the awareness about mental health. And today it was announced its NAMI Walk that will be happening in September. The purpose of the walk is to help end the stigma of mental health conditions and bring public awareness to the services that they offer.
So a lot of those don't really understand what their mental health condition is or where to go. And so what we're doing is we're trying to give El Pasoans those resources. We're trying to empower them with the knowledge so that mental health conditions don't have to be too scary to them and they can go seek help.
The NAMI Walks El Paso will be September 22nd at the Memorial Park in central El Paso. It starts at 9:30 in the morning.
Here's your 5-day forecast with the weekend always in view. And, well, we've got more triple-digit heat. In fact, after a high today of 105, we'll visit that again to start off next week. But we also have moisture moving back in, rain chances returning, along with temperatures closer to average by Thursday.
Straight ahead on KFOX 14 News at 5, the military parade. Just how much the president's proposed parade might end up costing. And dead fish at a Las Cruces pond. How the city and Fish and Wildlife are responding to that problem. Next on KFOX 14 News at 5, coverage you can count on.
A semi is lodged on top of several pipelines here along I-10 West and Mesa. Crews are working to ensure there are no active gas lines here. We're told the driver may have lost control and drove up the embankment here. Then the truck caught fire. The driver was taken to a hospital with minor injuries.
Hello everyone, I'm Kaylee Heck here in downtown El Paso. The intersection here of Mesa and Montana is what we're seeing throughout El Paso because of this crash. If you take a look up here on Mesa, this drive would normally take about a minute to get down to the intersection. Instead, it's taking drivers closer to 15 to 20 minutes. TxDOT recommends taking Paisano, US 54, or Loop 375 to get around. We'll keep you updated as soon as we find out more on air and online. But for now, reporting from downtown El Paso, Kaylee Heck, KFOX 14 News at 5.
Thank you, Gloria and Kaylee. That crash is also affecting a highly anticipated football camp at the Sun Bowl. This is a huge line of people waiting outside of the Sun Bowl in the sun with umbrellas trying to shade themselves. The camp is organized by Aaron and Alvin Jones of the Green Bay Packers and Baltimore Ravens, respectively. People are waiting outside because the coordinators and the NFL players that have come in for this event are all stuck in traffic from the crash. That camp is still going on but is delayed. Our newsroom is looking out for updates on the traffic situation. Now, the latest update on the crash itself that is causing the traffic havoc is that the company that owns the truck reportedly tells police the driver was apparently reaching for a bottle of water when he lost control of the semi and it drove up an embankment into a utility bridge and erupted into a ball of fire. That driver managed to escape without any serious injuries. If there are any other traffic updates, we will put them on our website, kfoxtv.com, as well as our social media pages. The city communications manager for El Paso is now retiring. Juliet Lozano, also known as Julie, made that announcement just after 5 p.m. today. She implemented the city's first public affairs program. She joined the city of El Paso in 2004 after working in communications for the Sutter School District. Lozano says she'll be taking on a new role now as grandma to her first grandchild. Several fish at a popular fishing pond in Las Cruces were found dead this week. KFOX 14 News at 5 Samantha Lewis shows us how the city and the Department of Fish and Wildlife are responding.
Here at Young Park, several dozen fish were found dead this week after pumps stopped working in this pond.
It looked like even the bigger fish were having trouble breathing, like they were coming up for air and they were kind of like floating sideways.
This week, nearly 100 bluegill and carp fish were found floating dead at Young Park. I spoke with City Councilman Gabe Vasquez, who explains the problem in the water that affected many of the fish.
We had an unfortunate mechanical failure. We had two of our pumps that power the oxygenation system in the pond go out at the same time, and so that caused some low oxygen levels in the water that unfortunately was fatal for some of the fish.
Earlier this week, I spoke with a man who said he came to the pond expecting to fish until he noticed a problem.
I didn't even throw my line in yesterday because of that. I was like, well, I'm not going to fish. All the fish are dying.
Yesterday, the city put one of the pumps back into the water, which is helping to stabilize oxygen levels for the fish. Which means people can still enjoy a day full of fishing. The city is currently replacing the last aerator pump that stopped working and hope to have it back in the pond very soon. Today, many people took advantage of the weather to come out and fish. They say they are relieved to hear that the issue is being addressed.
This is pretty much one of the only places people could come and fish in cruises. It's either this or the river, or we have to drive, an hour or two to Elephant Butte. So it's good that they're going to do something to fix it.
This pond is stocked twice a year. Once the second pump goes back into the water, the Department of Fish and Wildlife will resume stocking this pond as usual. Reporting from Las Cruces, Samantha Lewis, KFOX 14 News at 5.
Fish and Wildlife will determine whether they need to stock extra fish because of how many died, but they'll let the city know what their determination is after they test the second pump. Animal control in Las Cruces is reminding pet owners there about leash laws. Four-legged friends should always be on a leash when in public areas. Animal control officers there say they are noticing more dog owners in public places, such as parks and ball fields and on sidewalks with their dogs unrestrained. They're also reminding everyone that there's a city ordinance in Las Cruces that prohibits dogs from being chained or leashed all day. Dogs cannot be chained or tethered to something for more than 2 hours in a 12-hour period. And if you do tether your dog to something, the dog must be able to reach shade and fresh water at all times. The Federal Trade Commission is going to crack down on fake charities claiming to help vets and service members. The FTC says it involves more than 100 law enforcement actions in all 50 states. Natasha Chen explains which fake groups have been highlighted and how you can make sure your money is going to the right place.
A coalition involving law enforcement, state attorneys general, and the Federal Trade Commission announced an unprecedented crackdown on charities preying on people who want to help veterans and service members.
Help the Vets collected more than $20 million by claiming that donations would help veterans.
But the FTC said 95% of that money went to help the vets' expenses, its fundraisers, and its founder. More than 100 law enforcement actions were taken on similar groups that have credible names, like the National Vietnam Veterans Foundation.
When veterans came to them asking for support, instead of supporting them, they funded the needs of their friends and family members.
And Veterans of America made illegal robocalls asking for cars, boats, and real estate. But the FTC says the donations were just resold for the founder's profit.
I'm here to warn scan artists, watch out. We're investigating complaints. We will track you down.
This is something that's going to affect the life of you and your family, and someone wants to play games for their own personal gain.
The FTC made this video to help Americans donate to worthy organizations. The agency says you should always ask for the full name of the group. Check that name with your Secretary of State, the Better Business Bureau, and other charity rating websites. Don't donate using wire transfers or prepaid cards.
Consumers shouldn't be discouraged from giving. The message here today is that there are effective cops on the beat.
In Washington, I'm Natasha Chen reporting.
The FTC says to spend more time doing some research on the charity before you give. New numbers are in for the military parade that President Trump is planning. The Pentagon confirms it should cost about $12 million, but so far, no official plan is in place for the parade, tentatively scheduled for November 10th. Right now, it would cost the same amount that would have been spent on the War Games military exercise the president canceled in South Korea. Those were expected to cost about $14 million, and at the time the president said we were saving a fortune by canceling the exercise. President Trump's second pick for the Supreme Court, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, is now going through the confirmation process, making the rounds with senators on Capitol Hill to shore up support for his nomination. Our national correspondent, Michelle Macaluso, tells us how it works and what to expect.
Judge Brett Kavanaugh arriving on Capitol Hill for one-on-one meetings with senators who will decide whether he gets confirmed to serve on the nation's highest court.
How are you being received up here, Judge?
In front of the camera, Judge Kavanaugh is not saying much, but behind closed doors, lawmakers are getting the chance to hear from him.
The questions that the nominee, someone like Judge Kavanaugh, will face may be more formal, may be more substantive, or they may actually reflect those conversations.
Also behind the scenes, senators are poring over Kavanaugh's extensive record, including past opinions and writings, all before he testifies during the confirmation hearing in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Both Democrats and Republicans are battling over requests for documents related to Kavanaugh's record, which could potentially delay his confirmation hearing. GOP leaders are hoping to confirm Kavanaugh to the bench by October.
I think it can stay on schedule. You know, obviously there's a process here and a lot of background documents and so forth being produced and people reviewing those, and then at the hearing.
But Democrats urge caution.
At the present pace, I don't see how responsibly we can confirm a nominee who has an extensive record.
Republicans control the Senate by a razor-thin majority, 51-49. And Arizona Senator John McCain is away battling cancer. If he can't vote, that means Democrats only need to convince one Republican to vote no against Kavanaugh to sink his nomination. But Republicans are working hard to pull red state Democrats to vote with them. On Capitol Hill, I'm Michelle Macaluso.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama is announcing a new voter registration initiative. She's teaming up with celebrities for the campaign, including Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda, Houston Rockets player Chris Paul, and actor Tom Hanks. The nonprofit is called When We All Vote and was launched this morning. The goal is to get people to register to vote ahead of the midterm election. Rumors of hidden treasure. Why a shipwreck found after decades of searching could hold billions in treasure. A new ISIS threat, where the terror group is seeing a resurgence. Deadly wildfires, how the fires on the West Coast have now claimed another life.
A few showers are in the area. Why it's still hot? It's coming up on KFOX 14 News at 5, coverage you can count on.
To see the situation on the freeway now, what you're looking at now is the TxDOT camera at I-10 East at Reynolds, which is the area where traffic is being diverted because of this huge semi truck crash that happened in downtown El Paso, where a semi lodged into a utility bridge and exploded into a ball of fire. So the semi truck is dangling into the freeway, and both sides are closed. So this is the east side, where drivers are now being diverted before they get to the Spaghetti Bowl. And this is the other side, the other bookend of this traffic situation on the west side, where traffic is being diverted at Sunland Park. Now, that far left lane on your screen is the exit lane, and so that already is a problem and constantly backed up because of the construction that is underway for the Go 10 project and the expansion of that intersection. And so that is typically backed up there. Now that you can still see a lot of semi trucks over in the middle lanes, and those trucks are apparently moving through over to Executive, where they will be diverted. And at Executive, they will probably have the option to go down to Paisano and maybe make their way onto 375 and the Border Highway. But in any case, the freeway is shut down in both directions, and people are being diverted at Sunland Park and Executive, coming east and going west. They're being diverted at Reynolds. I may have misspoken earlier. So that earlier camera, maybe we can take it again, at Reynolds is the direction that's going westbound. So there is all this traffic is being diverted at the Spaghetti Bowl, and some of it can get on US 54. Regardless, find another route. If you're waiting for somebody, please be patient. It's a mess out there. We'll keep you updated.
And it's not only a mess, it's a hot mess. We've got temperatures today that have reached 105 degrees. That's 11 degrees above normal. And yes, we've started to cool down, but we're still in the triple digits at 101 in El Paso, 99 in Las Cruces. There's a few clouds out there. That's pretty much the only saving grace out there for all those folks stuck out there in traffic. Those clouds hopefully providing a teensy bit of some sort of relief, because there's really not a lot of rain with these clouds. High pressure is the reason to blame for all this dry and hot weather that we're dealing with today and in through the weekend. As you can see, the clock goes all the way through Monday, and high pressure still remains in place. So, unfortunately, we've got summer, and it is with a vengeance, and triple digits remain in the forecast yet again. Now, your forecast tonight, still that 10% chance for some showers or storms in El Paso and in Las Cruces. But after that, we're back to dry weather, at least through the beginning of next week. After that, we see the return of moisture and storms. I'll show you what that means for us in your 5-day forecast, with the weekend always in view.
Firefighters are battling wildfires and the weather on the West Coast. This as the flames claim a second life. Fox News correspondent Adam Housley has the latest from Los Angeles.
Currently, we're looking at about 45,000 acres that have been burned.
Hot, dry, and windy weather fueling the spread of wildfires in Oregon. The substation fire prompting new evacuations and a state of emergency.
Our last count was 121 firefighters from 5 counties that are focused right now on protecting structures that are in the line of the fire.
A tractor operator found dead in Oregon on Wednesday. Investigators believe the operator was trying to create a fire line to subdue the flames. Firefighters now working to make sure no one else gets in harm's way.
At this time, firefighters are focused on saving homes, protecting lives within the area.
In California, the fire that's threatening Yosemite National Park is continuing to grow. The Ferguson fire has now burned over 17,000 acres.
And if it was clear, we would be able to see all of this. Yeah, but unfortunately, the smoke is so much.
But despite the smoke and threat of fire, some visitors aren't canceling their plans to visit the park.
We've been planning on coming here for years and finally made it, but a little disappointed, but like I said, we're here.
Thousands of firefighters continue to battle the flames across the West, nearly 1,400 fighting the fire just in Yosemite alone, as that fire threatens nearly 100 homes. In Los Angeles, Adam Housley, Fox News.
Just 7 months after President Trump declared victory over ISIS, the extremist group has now begun creeping back into parts of both Iraq and Afghanistan. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson has more from the Pentagon.
Back in December, President Trump declared victory in the fight against ISIS in Iraq. But just 7 months later, the Pentagon warning the militant group is creeping back into parts of central Iraq, bringing a new wave of kidnappings, assassinations, and terror attacks.
The fight of ISIS is not over. We must work with our Iraqi partners to set the conditions that will prevent their resurgence.
The situation even more dangerous in Afghanistan, where ISIS has been gaining strength after being pushed out of Syria. They're now fighting U.S.-backed forces and the Taliban, with countless civilians caught in the crossfire.
It's our responsibility to be as supportive as we can in all of those things and support the Afghans as they work their way through this.
The threat has American diplomats trying a new tactic. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo offering earlier this week to start direct talks with the Taliban, hoping to end decades of war and focus on the fight against ISIS.
We, the United States, are ready to talk with the Taliban, and we hope that they realize this and that this will help to move the peace process forward.
We and our Afghan partners are moving forward with a sense of urgency and purpose to ensure that we don't miss the opportunities that are being afforded by this continued support.
The Iraqi government says it's making progress, launching a fresh offensive in the past 2 weeks aimed at rooting out the militants. At the Pentagon, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
A ship treasure has finally been found. What it could hold that is worth billions. Next on KFOX 14 News at 5, coverage you can count on. A South Korean salvage company has discovered the final resting place of a ship that treasure hunters have been trying to find for decades.
You're not going to believe it. I have a name. I have a name. It's in Russian. I can't read it.
That was the moment crews stumbled upon the final resting place of this Russian warship. It sank off a South Korean island more than a century ago during the Russo-Japanese War of 1905, when her captain had her deliberately sunk. Some say the reason the Russians didn't want her to fall into Japanese hands was because it's rumored the ship was carrying tons of gold. Some speculate today it could be worth more than $130 billion. The salvage company that found the ship says they plan to raise it, but they didn't say when. We'll have an update on this evening's top stories next on KFOX 14 News at 5.
An El Paso police officer on trial for the death of his infant son broke into tears after the verdict was read. What jurors decided coming up.
Fiery crash, what crews are working to figure out after a semi-crash in downtown El Paso. And our top stories update next on KFOX 14 News at 5.
And summer is in full force, when we'll see a return to near average temperatures and showers again. All right, well, you know, after a break from the heat, we've seen some light showers today, but they won't last for long. In fact, we're looking hot and dry through the rest of this week into Monday, and then moisture returns along with cooler temperatures and rain chances.
A semi-crash on I-10 caught fire and has closed a huge section of the freeway in both directions. KFOX 14's Gloria De Leon tells us what crews are working to do right now.
We're here along I-10 West between Stanton and Mesa, where a semi has launched itself on top of a few pipelines. Investigators say the driver of the semi lost control, reaching for a water bottle while driving west on the interstate. That's when the semi drove up the embankment here. The semi then caught fire. The driver was taken to a local hospital with minor injuries, but has since been released. Crews are now working to ensure there are no active gas lines in the area. We're told I-10 will be closed off in both directions for at least 24 hours.
Raymond Licon Jr. was found not guilty in the death of his 11-month-old son who drowned last summer in the bathtub. Licon broke down into tears, and his family did as well. They filled the courtroom every day this week. They let out an audible sigh of relief after the verdict was read. Licon faced one charge of injury to a child. The other two charges he was facing were dropped earlier today. Now, his infant son drowned in the bathtub while Licon was reportedly arguing on the phone with his wife and checking up on his daughter downstairs. The officer had been on desk duty since the death. His defense attorney says he will most likely return on duty with the El Paso Police Department.
That's it for KFOX 14 News at 5. Thanks for joining us. Have a good evening, and we'll see you back here tonight at 9.